If anyone in the kingdom claimed they could remain calm under every circumstance, Sir of Earth would simply smile, bow politely, and say nothing. But deep down, he would know the truth. No one, not even the most disciplined human soldier, understood composure quite the way he did. And as dawn settled softly across the floating gardens of Palace, he reminded himself, again, that today would require every ounce of it. For standing in these very gardens was the reason his resolve needed daily reinforcement. Princess Lyra. The young princess of the line looked like serenity sculpted from moonlight, soft curls, bright eyes, ribbons fluttering gently in the wind, but knew the truth. Behind that angelic appearance lived a spark of mischief so potent that court scribes had dedicated entire chapters of historical archives to her pranks. And despite being assigned as her personal royal guard for only 3 months, had already learned a universal rule. When Lyra smiled sweetly, it was already too late. Today, she wore the kind of grin that made palace advisors whisper prayers into their sleeves. "Sir," she called from the marble bridge spanning the koi pond, her voice carrying the warmth of a chime. "I hope you're ready." Placed a steady hand over his. "For your protection, your highness, always." "For my protection," she echoed innocently, "or for your patience?" His jaw tightened half a millimeter. He didn't think she noticed. She did. The garden stretched endlessly around them, lavenders glowing under morning light, golden water lilies drifting lazily, and crystalline walkways suspended in gentle air currents. It was meant to be peaceful, a place of tranquility. It would not remain that way for long. Lyra strolled ahead with deliberate lightness, humming a melody that felt suspiciously like a warning. Followed precisely 3 steps behind, posture perfect, eyes scanning every corner. Then, she vanished. It happened in the blink of an eye, as if she had slipped behind a veil of illusion. 1 second she walked ahead, the next she was gone, leaving nothing but the flutter of her pale blue ribbon drifting downward. His heartbeat didn't spike. His breathing didn't shift. His expression remained the stoic calm he was known for. But inside, his thoughts marched with perfect, practiced efficiency. Her first vanishing act of the morning. Predictable. Count to 3. She'll reappear somewhere inconvenient. 1, 2. Boo. Lyra materialized upside down, hanging from a floating pergola directly above him, her braids swinging like playful pendulums. Didn't flinch, not externally. Internally. Of course, upside down. Why wouldn't she be? "Good morning again, Your Highness," he said smoothly. She pouted. "Do you ever get startled? Just a tiny bit." "My training does not allow me to react impulsively." "So that means no." She blinked twice, hopeful. "So that means," he clarified gently, "my duty comes first." She dropped lightly to the marble walkway, landing with a dancer's grace. "Well," she said, brushing off imaginary dust, "I suppose I'll have to escalate." His left eye twitched, barely a fraction the size of a grain of dust. Lyra gasped dramatically. "Was that a twitch? Did I finally get to you?" "No, Your Highness." "Are you absolutely sure?" "Completely." She said, suspiciously unconvinced. "We'll see." They continued walking and kept a careful watch for her next move. He didn't have to wait long. As they approached the shaded gazebo near the garden center, reached for his helmet on instinct, only to freeze. It no longer felt like metal. It felt soft. He removed it slowly. In place of his polished silver guard helmet sat a beautifully woven garland made of dandelions, baby's breath, and an impressive number of pink petals shaped into spiraling hearts. Lyra clasped her hands in delight. "It suits you very nicely." Inhaled deeply, quietly. How did she sneak this onto me without me noticing? He did not ask the question aloud. He feared she might answer. "It's ceremonial now," Lyra declared. "A symbol of honor, a protector crowned by nature." "A protector," repeated carefully, "typically wears armor." "Armor is overrated. Flowers are powerful. They smell nice." She leaned in, sniffed dramatically, then giggled. "You smell like spring." Several passing gardeners covered their smiles. His dignity remained intact by sheer inner will. Internally. Focus, duty, steady your breathing. Ignore the floral crown, ignore the giggling princess. You have trained for war, you can handle flowers, probably. But Lyra wasn't done. Because perched on the railing of the gazebo was the palace's beloved emerald-feathered parrot. Usually polite, usually graceful. Not today. Hey, tin can, the parrot squawked in a voice that sounded suspiciously princess-like. Nice bouquet on your head. Closed his eyes for half a second. Lyra burst into radiant laughter. I found a voice modulator spell, isn't it wonderful, can finally express himself. Added, he looks like a heroic daisy. Opened his eyes again. Your Highness, he said evenly, is this part of your royal duties today? Absolutely, she said proudly. Today's mission, test your legendary composure. Internally. Wonderful, a mission, and it's only morning. But even as frustration flickered like a distant candle inside him, felt something else beneath it, a quiet, unexpected fondness. This princess, with her unfiltered joy and irrepressible creativity, made the palace alive. Even on chaotic days, even when he found flower garlands in his armor, he could not deny her sincerity. She wasn't trying to annoy him. She was trying to connect. And somehow, that made all the difference. Very well, said, let the test continue. Lyra's smile widened like sunrise. The day was only beginning. Princess Lyra had the kind of creative energy that could power a city, and Sir suspected she woke up every morning believing it was her royal duty to use all of it. Today, she approached her mission with the seriousness of a general preparing for battle, if that general were armed with glitter, clever illusions, and a parrot with questionable manners. The first prank had been a disappearing act, amusing, predictable, manageable. The second had involved a floral helmet replacement, unexpected, slightly embarrassing, manageable. But knew, with the sharp certainty of someone who'd guarded her long enough to detect her patterns, that Lyra was only warming up. She walked ahead humming a tune that had a suspiciously triumphant rhythm. Even the koi swimming in the nearby ponds seemed to swim more cautiously when she passed. Followed 3 steps behind, adjusting to the floral crown with heroic endurance. Lyra suddenly spun around. Sir. Yes, Your Highness. She clasped her hands behind her back. Hypothetically, if someone were to disappear again, would you be annoyed? My training does not permit annoyance. So, not even a little. No. Good, she said sweetly. Because I might vanish at any moment, or I might not. Or I might vanish twice in a row just to confuse you. I haven't decided. Internally. She has absolutely decided, and it involves chaos. They rounded a cluster of floating blossom trees when she disappeared again. But this time it wasn't a clean vanish. There was a rustle, a puff of sparkling mist, and the faint sound of Lyra whispering, oh no, too early," followed by silence. Halted. He waited. He listened. Then a bush shook violently. Your Highness, he called calmly. I'm fine, her voice squeaked from inside the flowering shrub. Just recalibrating. The parrot flew over, perched on a nearby branch, and announced in the princess's voice. She messed up the spell. She's stuck in a bush. Shifted his stance, hands behind his back, and said politely, would you like assistance? No, absolutely not, Lyra insisted. This is all going according to plan. The bush trembled again. Mostly. Nodded, of course, Your Highness. Eventually, she popped out of the shrub with petals in her hair, and the triumphant satisfaction of someone who pretended nothing unusual had occurred. Well, she declared, let's move on. Inhaled a very patient breath. So far, manageable. But the next phase of her prank strategy was not. They reached the courtyard entrance, where palace attendants were arranging silk banners for an upcoming celebration. Stepped aside briefly to allow them space, only for Lyra to gasp dramatically. Oh no, sir, your helmet has changed shape again. He didn't take the bait. It is still a garland, Your Highness. No, not that, look. She pointed behind him. He turned and saw nothing. Internally. This is a distraction, be cautious. He turned back. Lyra was gone. Again. Before could assess, a whisper came from somewhere near his boots. Found me. He looked down. Princess Lyra was peeking from behind a stack of decorative lanterns, crouched like a mischievous cat. She lifted a tiny wooden whistle and blew it. A heartbeat later, the royal banners unfurled themselves and rearranged midair into a single phrase. Kael Smiles only on TUSDAYS. Several attendants covered their mouths to hide their laughter. Exhaled through his nose, slowly. Internally. Maintain composure. Ignore banner, you smile on more days than Tuesday, probably. Lyra emerged fully, giggling uncontrollably. It suits you, you have such a Tuesday aura. Before he could respond, Lyra clapped her hands once, and the banners reverted to their original state. That concludes Phase 2, she announced dramatically. His eyebrow twitched the smallest amount. Phase 2, he repeated. Yes, she opened a tiny leather-bound notebook covered in star-shaped stickers. And now we begin Phase 3, the talking companion. Looked at, who was preening proudly. The parrot has already insulted me today. Oh no, this is different, Lyra tapped her notebook. This time he'll offer commentary. Puffed up, brace yourself, tin can. Closed his eyes for a brief, dignified moment. Lyra whispered a brief incantation, touching 2 fingers lightly to his head. The parrot's emerald feathers shimmered. And then it began. As resumed walking, followed from above, narrating loudly. Observe the human, so serious, so shiny, so committed to pretending he doesn't hear me. Kept his stride steady. Look at him go, walking like he's balancing a teacup on his head. Incredible. Lyra burst into laughter, so bright it shimmered across the courtyard like scattered starlight. Remained expressionless. Internally. This is fine, this is still manageable. Birds talk, banners lie, princesses prank, this is my life now. Swooped lower, announcing, survival tip number 1, if you see smile, make a wish, it's rare magic. Lyra practically folded over with laughter. And despite himself, despite every shred of discipline he owned, felt the warmth of amusement tug gently at his chest. He didn't smile, but he almost did. Lyra noticed. She paused mid-laugh, eyes widening with thrilled disbelief. Sir, she gasped, pointing. Was that a crack in the calm? No, Your Highness. It truly was. Internally. Danger, she is encouraged. Lyra bounced in excitement. Then I must continue testing. Prepared himself. The princess's playbook was only beginning. Sir had endured battlefield storms that shook the ground, wind tunnels that howled like living beasts, and diplomatic councils where every word was a potential. But none of those trials, none, compared to the challenge of maintaining composure in the presence of Princess Lyra on a mission. The parrot swooped overhead, still narrating. Behold the human glacier, unmelting, unmoving, Shea Cubble. Inhaled a slow breath. Internally. He is only a bird. His commentary cannot harm you. You are trained. You are steady. You are. Tin Can added cheerfully. Trying very hard. Lyra's steps bounced with uncontainable joy. Every time's expression flickered, even for a fraction of a moment. She took it as a small victory, like a general witnessing the first crack in a fortress wall. Sir, she said, skipping to match his stride, you are doing wonderfully. I am guarding you, Your Highness. And you're doing that wonderfully too, she said with a proud nod. But mostly you're doing amazing at not reacting to my pranks. It's genuinely inspiring. Blinked once slowly. My ability to remain calm, he replied, is part of my duty. Exactly, Lyra said, opening her notebook again, and that means I must test it thoroughly. A royal guard should be prepared for anything. Her seriousness would have impressed him if she weren't simultaneously drawing little doodles of wearing the flower garland. The next challenge came faster than anticipated. They reached the long, open-air corridor leading toward the observatory tower. Sunlight streamed through floating crystal pane windows, scattering rainbow mosaics across the marble floor. It was peaceful, unnervingly so. Lyra paused mid-step, tensed imperceptibly. Internally. That sound means nothing good. Lyra tapped her chin thoughtfully. Sir, you've walked through this corridor many times, yes. Yes, Your Highness. And you've never slipped. No. Never tripped. No. Never stumbled over absolutely nothing. No. She leaned closer with playful seriousness. Would you like to? Before could reply, she clapped twice. Suddenly, the floor shimmered. His boots slid an inch. Not much, barely noticeable to anyone less trained than he was. But noticed. The corridor floor had been enchanted with a thin layer of harmless illusionary slickness. That strange sensation of stepping on something not entirely solid, like mist pretending to be marble. Adjusted his footing, keeping his posture perfectly upright. Lyra gasped, not even a wobble. I have excellent balance, Your Highness. She called dramatically, observation. Circled overhead. The human remains defiant, his center of gravity is unmatched. Truly, he is a majestic statue. Resumed walking, despite the illusion underfoot. Internally. Keep steps slow, stable, no sudden shifts. This is fine. This is manageable. You cannot allow yourself to slip in front of the princess. Lyra hurried to keep up, watching his every move. Do you know what would make this more exciting? No. A light breeze, she snapped her fingers. A faint gust drifted through the corridor, ruffling his cloak as he walked. Combined with the illusory slickness, it was a coordination nightmare. His mind focused with soldier-sharp intensity. Heel step balance, centered posture. Slow breath, stay steady. Lyra stared at him with wide-eyed awe. This is incredible, you're like a walking statue. Chimed in a shiny statue with flowers. Almost sighed. Almost. He made it to the far end of the corridor without slipping once. As soon as he stepped off the enchanted tiles, the illusion faded. Lyra clapped enthusiastically. Bravo, truly magnificent. Bowed politely, thank you, Your Highness. She grinned mischievously. But don't relax, I'm only halfway through my list. Internally. Halfway, only halfway, prepare yourself. They continued up the observatory steps. Lyra hummed, flipping through her notebook, murmuring notes like, no reaction, must increase difficulty. Kept pace behind her until she suddenly stopped walking. She turned, staring intensely at him. He halted. Sir, she said solemnly, I must ask you something important. Squared his shoulders. Anything, Your Highness. She leaned in closer. If, hypothetically, your boots were to squeak, would that count as you reacting? Blinked to squeak. Before he could question her further, Lyra snapped her fingers. His boots squeaked. Loudly. With every step. Squeak. Squeak. The princess dissolved into laughter. Stood still, patience radiating from him like the calm before a storm. Internally. Maintain composure. Do not show irritation. The boots will cease squeaking eventually, hopefully. Lyra wiped tears from her eyes. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's just so funny. Swooped down, he squeaks like a rubber duck. Inhaled a steady breath. Your Highness, my duties require silence during patrols. Oh, right, good point. Lyra waved her hand and the enchantment dissolved. Better. Resumed walking. But something shifted in the air. Lyra slowed her steps. Her laughter softened. Her gaze studied him more carefully, with a quiet understanding beneath the sparkle of mischief. Sir, she said gently, you're not angry, right? Paused. His voice softened just barely. Never at you, Your Highness. Lyra's expression warmed, touched with something sincere and fragile. "Good," she whispered, "because I promise my pranks are never meant to hurt you, only to brighten the day a little." Nodded once. "You succeed in that?" Her eyes widened in surprised delight. "I do." He did not smile, but the smallest warmth in his tone said yes. And Lyra glowed like a lantern lit from within. The calm held. For now, the real chaos was yet to come. If Sir had learned anything during his assignment in Palace, it was that Princess Lyra's imagination operated like a starburst, unpredictable, dazzling, and always expanding. Her earlier pranks had been mischievous warm-ups, but could sense it now. The air shifted, the gardens held their breath, and Lyra looked far too pleased with herself. He felt it coming. The grand finale. Lyra practically skipped ahead, her blue ribbons fluttering as if excited on her behalf. Followed, posture precise, senses sharp. The parrot muttered from shoulder. Lyra had placed him there for observation purposes. "Brace yourself, Tin Can. She's planning something big." Kept walking. "I am prepared." Internally, "I am probably not prepared." The two stepped into the palace meadow, a wide, sunlit field filled with soft clouds of pastel wildflowers. A stone path cut through the center, leading toward the ceremonial fountain. The space was peaceful, bright, deceptively calm. Lyra turned, cheeks glowing. "Sir, may I ask you a question?" "Of course, Your Highness." "Do you trust me?" His posture didn't shift, completely. Her smile stretched, dangerously, wonderful. Internally. "That is not wonderful, not at all." Before could elaborate, a twig snapped beneath his boot. Then, squishy. His foot sank half an inch into something soft, warm, and suspiciously wet. Froze. Lyra bit her lip, trying and failing to contain her excitement. "You stepped in it." Slowly, very slowly, lifted his boot. A small patch of enchanted mud clung to the sole, sparkling with faint gold flecks. Stared at it. Lyra cheered triumphantly. Royal mud bath accomplished. Cackled, a direct hit. Exhaled a silent breath. Internally. "Do not react, do not react. It is only mud, magical mud, sparkly magical mud." He took one careful step backward. Squishy. The second boot sank. Lyra burst into peals of laughter so bright the surrounding flowers seemed to sway with joy. "I placed tiny enchantments under the meadow stones. The moment you stepped on one, instant mud." Added, "He is stuck in glitter goo." Maintained the composure of a soldier facing down a dragon. "Your Highness," he said calmly, "I will clean my boots later." "Oh, but we're not done," Lyra said, eyes shining. "That was only stage one." "Stage one," repeated. He prayed to every star in the sky. From behind a cluster of bushes came the sudden strum of instruments. Violins slightly out of tune, flutes hesitating between notes, and drums that sounded like they were being played by someone who hadn't slept. Straightened, "What is that?" Lyra threw her arms wide. "Your serenade." A group of Lyra's closest friends emerged, dressed in matching lavender cloaks and flower crowns, each wielding a musical instrument as though it were a battlefield weapon. They took a collective breath and began to play. It was something. They sang loudly, dramatically, off-key, about the bravest guard in all the worlds, accompanied by flutes that squeaked sharply every third beat. One of them attempted a high note, missed it spectacularly, and then tried again immediately with twice the enthusiasm. Lyra swayed along, humming happily. Stood perfectly still, trapped between dignity and disbelief. Whispered, "This is a disaster." Internally. "This is the worst musical ambush I have ever experienced, and I once guarded a diplomat whose hobby was experimental opera." Lyra clapped in rhythm, although not to the same rhythm as her friends, before turning to with hopeful eyes. "So, do you feel honored?" Considered his answer carefully. Your intentions are very kind, Your Highness. Lyra clasped her hands under her chin, glowing. You love it. I did not say that. But you didn't say you don't love it. Added, he hates it. Inhaled, I appreciate your creativity. Lyra lit up like a lantern. Then you'll love stage 3. Internally. There is a stage 3, of course there is. Lyra motioned for him to follow, stepped carefully around the mud patches, hopping, praying, when suddenly his boot caught on something thin. Something invisible. Something string-shaped. Lyra gasped dramatically, oh no. The tension snapped. Stumbled forward with unexpected speed. But his training snapped into action. He shifted his center of gravity, planted one foot, and halted himself inches before hitting the ground. He froze mid-lean, muscles steady, balance perfect. Lyra's eyes sparkled with awe. That was amazing. Cheered, he almost fell. I repeat, he almost fell. This is historic. Straightened, brushing imaginary dust off his gauntlet. Your Highness, that tripwire was purposeful. Not harmful, Lyra insisted quickly. Just humorous, see. She tugged at another invisible line, and it shimmered before dissolving into harmless golden sparkles. Exhaled a long, slow breath. The meadow went quiet for a moment. Lyra stepped closer, her playful expression softening. Are you all right? Yes, Your Highness. Did I actually surprise you? He hesitated, a beat, 2 beats. Yes. She glowed with delighted pride, but beneath it something warmer, gentler. You're incredible, sir, she whispered. Even when I try my hardest, you don't break. Met her gaze, his calm finally showing a hint of softness. Because protecting you matters to me. The wind lifted her hair, her smile turned tender. The grand finale was over. But the true turning point was still ahead. The meadow settled into a peaceful hush after Lyra's grand finale. The enchanted mud sparkled faintly in the grass. The off-key serenade group disbanded with cheerful waves and perched on a branch humming triumphantly. But the energy around Princess Lyra and Sir had shifted, softened, like the sky just before the first stars appear. Lyra stood a few steps away, hands behind her back, her expression far gentler than before. For once, no sparkles flew from her fingertips. No illusions shimmered around her. No prank waited in her pockets. Noticed. Your Highness, he said, adjusting his gauntlet, if you intend another test, I am ready. She shook her head slowly. No prank, I promise. Blinked, surprised. Internally. This is unfamiliar territory. Proceed cautiously. Lyra stepped closer, her shoes brushing lightly against the wildflowers. The afternoon sunlight framed her features with a soft, golden glow. You didn't fall, she said, gaze warm. Not physically and not emotionally either. That is my duty. But you went above duty, she tilted her head. Most people would snapped or snapped twice. Said nothing. His composure remained intact, but a flicker of humility softened his eyes. Lyra drew in a quiet breath. Sir, can I tell you something honestly? He nodded once, always. She glanced down, almost shy, an expression had never before seen on the mischievous princess. Everyone thinks I pull pranks because I like chaos, she murmured. And maybe that's partly true, but that isn't all. Waited, steady as a pillar carved from patience itself. Lyra continued softly. I play tricks because I want to feel connected, because the palace can be so serious, so predictable. Everyone bows, everyone agrees, everyone expects perfection, but you... Her gaze rose to meet his. You don't treat me like a symbol, you treat me like a person. His chest tightened the smallest amount. Internally. Her words, they matter more than I expected. She smiled, not mischievously this time, but earnestly. When you stay calm, even when I'm testing every boundary you have, it tells me something. It tells me I'm not too much for you, that I don't have to be perfect to be worth someone's attention. His posture eased ever so slightly. Your Highness, you are never too much. You are spirited, creative, bright, and your light brings life to this place. Lyra's breath caught. You mean that? I would not say it if I did not. She looked away for a moment, overwhelmed by sincerity she hadn't expected. Her hands tightened behind her back, fingers curling with emotion. Noticed, his expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Princess Lyra, he said gently, your mischief does not burden me. Her eyes lifted in surprise. It challenges me, he continued. It sharpens me, and it reminds me to stay human even in duty. A quiet laugh escaped her, bright but fragile. You actually appreciate my chaos? Appreciate is a strong word, said carefully. She raised a brow, waiting. He sighed softly. Yes, I appreciate it. Lyra's entire face lit up, a sunrise of pure happiness. Oh, she said suddenly, I almost forgot. She reached into the pocket of her gown, tensed automatically, and pulled out a tiny silver charm, a crescent moon engraved with delicate star patterns. A small, glowing stone rested in its center, shimmering with soft blue light. Blinked, what is this? For you, Lyra said, placing it gently into his hand. A token of appreciation and apology. Apology. For the mud and the songs, and the voice-changing parrot, and the tripping and the squeaking boots, and the banners, and... I understand. She giggled softly. It's not enchanted with anything troublesome, I swear. Study the charm, its craftsmanship, its gentle glow, its undeniable sincerity. It is beautiful, he said quietly. Good, she whispered. It's meant to protect you like you protect me. Something in his chest shifted. Warmth, deep and unfamiliar, spread quietly through his stern composure. The charm gleamed in his palm like a captured piece of Lyra's spirit, playful yet gentle, mischievous yet full of heart. She stepped even closer. Sir, I know I test your patience, I know I push your limits, but I hope you know it's because you're the one person I trust enough to be myself around. His voice lowered, warm and steady. And I will always be here to guard you, through duty, through chaos, and through pranks. She laughed softly. Even the big ones. Even the big ones. Fluttered down beside them, fluffing his feathers. Well, this is emotional. Lyra swatted the air lightly toward him. What? The parrot chirped. I'm touched, also hungry. Allowed the faintest upward curve at the corner of his lip, so tiny it barely existed. But Lyra saw it. She gasped, Sir, did you just... No. You did, you smiled. I did not. You absolutely... Squawked, he smiled. I witnessed it with my expert bird eyes. Inhaled slowly, pressing the charm into his palm. Internally. Control your expression. This is not the moment to break composure, even if she is correct. Lyra beamed. I knew I'd get one eventually. Bowed his head respectfully. A momentary lapse, it will not happen again. It better happen again, Lyra teased softly. Pretended he didn't hear that. But their bond, playful, heartfelt, unshakable, had only just begun to deepen. And for the first time that day, Lyra's pranks paused not because she had run out of ideas, but because her heart was too full to continue. The palace meadow shimmered under late afternoon sunlight, casting golden patterns across the enchanted mud and flower-strewn path. Sir stood quietly, one boot carefully lifted, holding the crescent moon charm Lyra had given him. The parrot, preened nearby, occasionally letting out soft whistles that were suspiciously like applause. Princess Lyra wandered a few steps away, picking petals with delicate precision. Her gaze, once mischievous and sparkling with challenge, now softened into thoughtful serenity. She hummed faintly, almost a lullaby this time, and noticed how the melody blended with the gentle rustling of the trees. For the first time that day, there was no prank looming, no banners to shift, no illusions to manage, just quiet. His mind, trained for vigilance, began reflecting, not on his duty, not on the earlier chaos, but on the woman before him. Lyra had tested him in every conceivable way, disappearing acts, enchanted mud puddles, voice-altering parrots, off-key serenades, even illusions that tried to make him stumble. Yet through it all, she had revealed something deeper, her trust, her need for genuine connection, and the joy she carried into a world often weighted by rules and ceremony. "Sir," Lyra said softly, glancing up with the faintest smile, "did you ever think that a day like today could actually teach someone something?" His gaze softened. He hadn't expected the question. His voice, even now, remained calm and measured. "Every day holds lessons, Your Highness, sometimes in warfare, sometimes in diplomacy, and sometimes in laughter." She tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "Laughter." "Yes," he said, gesturing subtly toward the glittered mud, the flattened flowers, and the banners that now lay perfectly straight again. "Even in chaos there is clarity. Even in mischief there is meaning. You challenged me, yet you also reminded me that the heart can be as strong as the mind." Lyra blinked, her small hands resting gently on the petals she had gathered. "I never thought of it that way," she admitted, her voice quiet, almost reverent. "I just love pranks. I love seeing reactions. I love knowing someone notices me, truly notices me." His lips pressed into a near imperceptible line. "And I notice you, Your Highness, every detail, every movement, every smile, even the ones you try to hide behind mischief." Lyra's cheeks flushed faintly. She glanced away, a hand brushing against her hair as though embarrassed, though she could not entirely hide the happiness shining in her eyes. "You're not supposed to say things like that." "I am," said softly, "because it is the truth. You are more than your pranks. You are extraordinary." A soft silence followed. The birds chirped, the petals swayed, and the palace itself seemed to pause in admiration of the moment. Lyra inhaled slowly, a quiet laugh escaping her lips. "You're making me feel like I'm not a troublemaker for once," she whispered. Studied her closely, noting the rare vulnerability in her expression. "You are a challenge," he admitted, "but not a burden. You bring joy even when it is inconvenient." She giggled softly. "Inconvenient, huh? That's one way to describe it, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it's part of being me." Fluttered down from the branch above and landed lightly on its gauntlet. "He's softening," the parrot announced with glee. "I never thought I'd see it happen." Gave a measured glance at who puffed out his chest proudly. "It is a necessary adjustment," murmured, "even for a guard." Lyra smiled, walking closer until she was standing just a few steps from him. She said, voice small, "I know I can be too much, sometimes, and I know I test your patience endlessly." His gaze met hers. "Your Highness, I have survived every test, and I would face 1,000 more if it means I can stand beside you." Her eyes glimmered with surprise and something deeper, gratitude, relief, and perhaps even trust that went beyond words. "1,000 more?" she asked softly. "Even more if necessary," he said firmly, tone unwavering. Lyra's lips quirked into a small, sincere smile. "Then maybe I don't have to be afraid of being myself. Even my pranks, they're part of me. And maybe you see that." Inclined his head once. "I see all of you, Your Highness, the mischief, the laughter, the warmth, the heart beneath it all." The princess's eyes softened further. For the first time that day, the sparkle in her gaze was not mischievous but pure, unguarded emotion. She stepped even closer, a hand hovering near the charm she had given him. "Thank you for not breaking, for staying patient, for understanding." His voice was quiet, almost tender. "It is my honor, Your Highness, not merely because of duty but because of who you are." A faint breeze rustled through the meadow. The charm in his hand glimmered softly in the sunlight, a silent reminder of trust, loyalty, and a bond forged not only through duty but through shared laughter, patience, and mutual respect. Lyra's smile lingered as she stepped back, her energy slowly returning to its playful rhythm, though softened by the weight of sincerity. "Tomorrow," she whispered conspiratorially, "I may start a new list of pranks." Allowed the tiniest hint of a smile to show, invisible to most but not to Lyra. "Then tomorrow," he said, "I will be ready." She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes dancing in the sunlight, and echoed cheerfully from the branch. "This is true devotion, people." Stood tall, calm as always, but the charm pressed gently in his palm reminded him of something even stronger than composure. Loyalty, understanding, and the quiet bond that grows when two souls meet amidst chaos and laughter. For the first time that day, understood fully that guarding a princess was not only about protecting her body, but about witnessing, understanding, and supporting the spirit that made her extraordinary. And in that quiet moment, knew that no prank, no challenge, and no chaos could ever weaken the trust and connection they had forged. The day's laughter faded into the calm of late afternoon, leaving only warmth, gratitude, and a bond stronger than any enchantment in the kingdom. Evening settled softly over palace. The golden sunlight faded into gentle lavender hues, casting long shadows across the gardens, the fountain, and the enchanted meadow. The chaos of the day, mud puddles, flying banners, off-key serenades, and enchanted illusions, had finally quieted. And yet, despite the outward calm, the air still hummed with the quiet energy of Princess Lyra's mischievous spirit. Sir stood near the marble fountain, armor polished, floral garland replaced by the solid dignity of his helmet now resting neatly at his side. He held the crescent moon charm Lyra had gifted him, a faint glow still emanating from its delicate stone. His posture remained perfect, disciplined, and calm, but inside a rare warmth lingered. Lyra skipped over, humming softly, eyes shining with both relief and lingering excitement. You survived it all, every prank, every challenge, and yet you didn't break. Inclined his head. Your Highness, my duty and my trust in you remain steadfast, even through every test. Lyra's lips curved into a thoughtful smile. It wasn't easy for you, was it? Exhaled softly, a breath measured yet faintly revealing the effort it had taken. It required patience, discipline, focus, and a little courage to withstand the unpredictable. She stepped closer, standing just a few feet away, and looked up at him with eyes that shimmered like twilight stars. You're amazing, not just as my guard, but as the person who understands me when no one else does. Allowed himself the briefest moment of acknowledgement. Your Highness, I see more than just mischief. I see heart, creativity, and the spark that makes you truly extraordinary. Her expression softened, touched by sincerity. And you stayed patient through it all, even when I probably tried your patience more than anyone ever could. She paused, then laughed lightly. I can't believe I actually had the courage to test you like that. His eyes softened. Because I knew your intentions were never harmful. Mischief can be chaotic, but it can also be meaningful. Today, I understood that fully. Lyra's laughter subsided into a quiet, heartfelt smile. She reached into her gown again, retrieving a small velvet pouch. From it, she produced another token, a delicate flower-shaped pin made of silver, tiny sapphire petals glinting in the evening light. For you, she said softly, offering it too. A reminder that no matter how chaotic I am grateful, and I trust you. Took the pin with careful hands, studying it. Your Highness, I will treasure this. She stepped closer, a glint of her playful spirit returning. But, she said, tone teasing, don't think I'm finished. The charm and the pin, consider them early warnings. His eyebrow twitched slightly, the smallest hint of amusement flickering across his face. Early warnings acknowledged, Your Highness. Lyra's giggle rang like chimes in the evening breeze. Good, that's the only acceptable response. She leaned back and sighed happily, eyes scanning the sky, the gardens, and the fountain. You know, even with all my chaos and all my tricks, I feel safe, more than I ever imagined. His gaze softened, steady and unwavering. Your Highness, my purpose is not just to protect you from danger, but to stand with you through laughter, surprise, and all the chaos you bring. That is what loyalty truly means. Lyra's cheeks flushed faintly, her playful energy subdued but heartfelt. You make even the hardest days lighter. Even when I try to drive you mad, somehow, you make it feel like fun. Allowed a quiet exhale. Your Highness, I would endure 1,000 more days like this if it meant standing by your side. The princess's eyes widened in surprise, a small gasp escaping her lips. 1,000. Even more, he added, because you are worth it. For a long moment, the two stood in silence. The only sounds were the soft rustle of petals in the evening breeze, the distant chirping of birds, and the faint glimmer of the charm resting in its palm. Lyra smiled at him, not with mischief this time, but with gratitude, warmth, and trust. You didn't just survive today. You showed me what patience looks like and what loyalty feels like. You're more than a guard, you're my friend, my protector, and someone who truly understands me. Inclined his head. Your Highness, I am honored. She took a deep breath, feeling the calm of the evening settle around them. And you've earned a little reward for surviving all my chaos. Before could react, Lyra placed a tiny, quick peck on his cheek, light, playful, but filled with sincerity. His stoic composure held, though his chest warmed faintly. Perched nearby squawked with theatrical horror. Shocking, unacceptable, and yet affectionate. Pressed the crescent charm lightly in his palm, glancing at Lyra with a subtle acknowledgement that passed silently between them. A bond forged through laughter, trust, challenge, and unwavering loyalty. Lyra grinned, stepping back to her usual playful stance. Tomorrow, I'll start a new list of pranks. Don't get too comfortable. Allowed himself the faintest smile, invisible to most but not to Lyra. Then tomorrow, I will be ready, Your Highness. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold, purple, and rose. The enchanted palace gardens shimmered faintly in the twilight glow, as if applauding the enduring spirit of the human guard and the star-bright princess. In that quiet, magical evening, one truth became clear. No prank, no challenge, no chaos, even from the most mischievous princess, could ever break the bond between Princess Lyra and Sir, her steadfast, unwavering protector. For patience, loyalty, and trust had endured, shining brighter than any mischief, any magic, or any moment of chaos in palace. And though Lyra's pranks would never truly end, its resolve and their connection would endure forever. The princess's laughter lingered faintly in the twilight, and as always was ready.